Ethics is always interesting, and we talk about this a lot in our business and with our customers. If you're either leading a coaching company or delivering a corporate programs or even managing a team of coaches, we're all grappling with the same challenge, right? How to balance growth and the technology, and while staying true to our core values. I think that's what's most important. I don't know whether you recently seen my LinkedIn about human trust barometer in 2025, and there was a research that they found that 6 in 10 people globally now reported that they don't trust AI, or they might not even use AI. So that's really interesting fact. And of course, AI is no longer a futuristic concept. It's here, it's evolving rapidly. But I mean, some of them are maybe using for your coaching business, note-taking, client insights, automating, matching, all these things. But it raises a critical question, right? One that defines our discussion today. How do we scale coaching without compromising the very trust our profession is built upon? So this is the reason why we brought together 2 powerhouse voices in the coaching today. So both of them are thought leaders and live these challenges from inside out. So this is where we're going to bring our 2 main speakers. First up, someone I personally admire, and for clarity and leadership in the space. Jeanette, love to have you. And you're the founder of UCA, Universal Coaching Alliance.
Yes.
And your mission is to help coaching professionals and business scale smart, start ethically. Do you want to give us a quick story why you started UCA? That would be wonderful as well.
Why I started UCA was I was coming out of a long period of time working for another membership organization, left wanting to do anything but set up a membership organization. And then within 10 days of me saying I was leaving, 4 different people said, when are you going to set up your own membership body? And I thought, the universe is telling me something here. I'll give it a go. And we've just celebrated in March our first birthday. We're growing nicely according to where we want to be. And all sorts of opportunities are coming our way, including being invited here, which I'm delighted to be here this evening.
Oh, thank you very much, Jeanette. We are very, very glad to hear you're here. And I mean, you have loads of experience in coaching supervisors, with helping building businesses, coaching CEOs, all that. So you have done lots. So we would love to basically learn a lot from you, from this space, how ethics in coaching can be relevant and why now, etc. Joining Jeanette and myself is someone who brings executive perspective at scale. This is the brilliance Denise Russo. I mean, we've been connected for a while, and she's absolutely very much accomplished individual from corporate side. So she was a global VP of learning and development at SAP, and she led coaching initiatives impacting over 100,000 employees across 75 countries. Can you believe? So she got wealth of experience internally in organization level. Plus, she's a coach, she's an advisor today, and she was actually ICF Prism Award recipient, 2-time ICF Global Board member. Denise, welcome. I'd love to know about this ICF Prism Award recipient. How did you get that award? Like, people will be curious now.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and I have to give equal credit to my friend Dominique, who I see on the webinar. Hey, Dominique. So Dominique was the leader of most of Eastern Canada, and so years ago, I don't even remember how many years ago it was, maybe 10 or more years ago, there was not really a coaching program at SAP. And there was a small group of us, which included Dominique, that we decided, hey, what would it look like if we volunteered beyond our day job to put together a group of coaches and expand our influence across the company. So alongside Dominique, about maybe 7 or so others of us got together. We created an alliance of sorts internal at SAP. We grew that to be about 700 coaches internal at SAP over the years. I led the Americas region for that. And then SAP applied for a Prism Award, which is like the Academy Awards of coaching. And SAP was honored with that award, which then led to ICF asking if I would be interested to join their global board of directors specific to the board representing coaching in organizations. I'm in my second 2-year term with that now as the vice chair of that board, and really happy to be here with you today.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Dominic, welcome. I don't know if this is the first time you're here, but Thank you very much for being here, Denise. It's lovely to have you here and listening to your experience, especially from the corporate side as well as from the coaching side, how this is going to be interesting conversation. So, of course, we would love to learn about you as well, attendees. Some of them are on video, some of them are not. And we want to know about you as well. So there will be a quick poll to know about your coaching business and where you at. And please do participate in that. That will basically give us some indication about who you are. And also we can navigate our conversations based on that. So great. Oh, that's all. Okay, great. So while we are doing that, I'm going to basically quickly share. I want to know how many people actually first time attending here. This is a series of webinars we have been running since 2020. These are monthly webinars that we do. So, Delenta is a technology company. We provide a coaching management solution to scale your coaching businesses. There are customers I can see here, and there are users who use our product to scale your coaching business, streamline your coaching business. But actually, from the value perspective, the core perspective, we are a community. That's what we believe. And Delenta started as a community because I wanted to create something 2018 to people to share knowledge and experience for free with others. That's how I started this, almost like a social enterprise or social experiment. And then 2020, when pandemic happened, many coaches said, we want your solution for our business. It should be white label. We need these tools. So we start building it. I fell in love with coaching and we thought, what, I'm going to invest my time and, effort in next few years, next 10 years in coaching. And to be honest, it was the best thing I ever done in my life. So if you're not following us on LinkedIn or other social media channels, please do. We have so many events coming up. We got a lot of these wise experts in the space, in the community, and we give them a stage to share their knowledge with you. And actually, to be honest, didn't elevate when I started at the beginning. I want to learn. It was a selfish idea for me to learn from those experts in our community. And then it turned out to be all the other community members love that. And through that, we basically build an amazing community. So please do follow us on social media if you're not doing that, because you get to know a lot more about these events, upcoming events, and knowledge sharing. One thing we really proud about is a community. And the users we have in 26 different countries. We have completed 32,000 coaching sessions so far. And our users rate us 96% highly. And this is something that a corporate guy a few years ago would never, ever think about, like building a community and create such an impact. So we really, really appreciate and admire what you're doing with our platform to make a positive impact in the world. This is a very quick snapshot of Delenta. If you're already running a coaching business and if you're thinking of scaling your coaching either program or initiatives, tryouts, we are the best in the world. So do and give us a try and see how you can bring all your tools into one place and build a great customer experience for your customers. Right. So on that note, actually, I want to tell you one more thing before I basically pass Jeanette and you guys start getting bored. But I want to tell you one thing. I think PwC recently reported that the coaching industry is going to be valued as $29 billion, right? Incredible, just such a great. And there are massive players in the market. We know that. There are large organizations, well-funded, right? And our hope is sincerely to help you to work with those HR managers, those L&Ds, with those people and compete with those giant companies, because you can build a trust as an individual SME or small medium-sized coaching business than any other large organization. In large organization, there are salespeople talking to these L&Ds, HR people, and try to convert them into buying their coaching. But I personally believe these small to medium coaching businesses, the owners are sincere. They want to give best to their coaching client. They basically pay their coaches well. And we want to create a technology to help you deliver that coaching to the best possible way, right? So that's our attempt. So if you like that movement, please be part of it. Now, on that note, I'm going to pass it to our expert, Jeanette Marshall. So Jeanette, over to you. I'm dying to hear from you about how you're going to navigate this AI market with ethics. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And it's lovely to hear you talk about wanting every coach to be able to be on a kind of level playing field when they're working with clients, because I think there is enough room in the coaching world for every coach to have a good living from it and to be in service of their clients. So that's where I'm coming from, which leads us really nicely into, are you ready for what's coming? I'm not sure we are. So just because we can doesn't mean we should yet. So I think there's a lot of learning that needs to be done. I think there's a lot of acceptance and understanding about what AI can do. For me, it all comes back to the ethical approach. So what are we doing this for? Is it in service of our clients? If we contract properly with our clients when we're working with them, I think that covers the ethical side of it. I think we need to be really clear about what's happening with the data. We need to trust the providers of that data. And there are some things that I firmly believe, however good the AI is, it cannot replace us as humans, because coaching is a very human connection. And I was talking to a very experienced coach earlier today, and she was saying, how can it pick up the nuances? What if there's a mistake made? What if we read a face signal for acceptance or happiness, and actually it's the opposite? And it's those nuances that I think is our strength. So yes, use AI to support with the admin and some of the more technical things, the recordings, the invoicing, stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, it's the relationships that we're building with our clients. So I think it's the clarity of purpose. So are you using AI to enhance that human connection or replace it? If it's enhanced, I think that's absolutely the right way to go. Why would we not want to free up our time to do more of the work we love, working with clients, rather than some of the, in some cases, the boring admin stuff? But of course, there comes a responsibility with that. So we need to be really clear with our clients that they understand what we're using, what that means to them, where the stuff might be held, all of those sorts of really important things. So, and particularly around matching with clients. So what's that data that they're holding about us or our clients? How is that going to be used? Who might have access to that? I think there's some real concerns, certainly from my perspective. I've spoken to a number of organizations and been involved in trials of different types of stuff, some really exciting stuff. Like at one point I was asked to do 10 90-second audio recordings of my voice, and I was being filmed at the same time. And then they created an avatar on a WhatsApp, which could dial up, ask a question. It would be me talking. Depending on what the question was, I was answering with a French accent or an American accent. It was anything but sounding like me. And I appreciate the technology gets better, but actually when I'm working with clients, it's me that they're buying into in the same way your clients buy into you. So there is that human touch that needs to be there. And I think it's really important that we understand that, and that our clients do. And if we are using AI for matching, who is accessing that data? I'm quite concerned that that data might be sold on to other parties. So I think something about the ethical confidentiality of who's holding that and how that works, I think that's really, really important. So probably enough said there. Denise, how are you feeling about those things?
I agree with everything that you're saying. I actually do something criminal.
That's great.
And I saw recently a tool that is like what you're talking about, that creates a little cartoon avatar that uses your voice, and it's cute and fun. But you're absolutely right that the client's company, and yourself as the coach need to be very aware of what happens to the data that's being gathered by the avatar.
Yeah. And I hope we're kind of responsible adults, and we want adult communication with our clients. I'm not absolutely sure a cartoon of me does the trick. I want to be taken seriously and work well with my clients. If we kind of move on to kind of the how tech can support some stuff, so things about reflection, I think AI can be really useful to ask us as coaches, perhaps, what are the things we need to reflect on? What have we learned from that? So I think for some of the basic questions that aren't perhaps going to change in those interventions, I think that can be really, really helpful. But we need to be aware, is it inadvertently pushing clients down a kind of preset agenda? I think there's a high probability that it is. As coaches, in the truest fashion, we come in service of the client, and we come with our own agenda, but we want to work well with the client and get them to where they need to be, which isn't necessarily where, a predetermined set of questions might take them if they're just doing it online. So I think we need to be really careful about that. And I'm wondering, Denise, what your kind of experiences in the corporate world with lots of coaches, how this might have impacted on them.
I think it really depends on what are the tools that the coach is using and for what reason, because AI for me is really a powerful partner, not a replacement for the coaching engagement. And there's some really great tools out there, like Agile Brain, for example, that is a tool that helps us to understand emotions and thoughts that a person has. But nothing is better than the human interaction with the coachee or your client, if you will. And so I think that when you're working in a large enterprise or whether you're just working one-on-one with a client, the question that I would ask is, what are you using technology for? And it should maximize the potential for a successful engagement with your client, not replace the human interaction of a conversation.
Definitely. And if we think about then the competency readiness, so does the coach understand the capabilities of the tool and the limits of that tool? I think that's really important as well, isn't it? Because we don't want to kind of inadvertently go down the wrong path and navigate in a wrong direction for our clients. I think it's really important. And of course, the professional boundaries are really, really important. What if AI gave a wrong answer? I was hearing a horror story, and it might be one of those stories, that you hear socially. But I was talking to someone earlier this week, and they were saying there has been a situation. I asked where they got their information from, but they couldn't actually tell me. So that's always interesting as well, isn't it? But essentially, there'd been a teenager who was using AI to ask questions. They were feeling a bit down, and actually it led to the suicide of that individual. So ethically, where do we take that? And that might just be a story, but, nonetheless, I think it's something for us to consider when we're working with our clients. How are we going to use this stuff ethically for them? So I'm curious, Denise, so in working with so many coaches internally, which is a massive operation in itself, how would you approach that now, given all the stuff that's out there that could support and enhance what they're doing?
I think whether you are a coach, Jeanette, that is new to the industry, or maybe you're tenured as a coach in the industry, that it's very crucial that you have a stance of continuous learning. Learning about the technologies, how do they work? Why would you use them? How can you incorporate them? Practice with them. And the example that you just gave is important. I actually had a situation just this week, not with a client, but I was listing something on eBay. And so I took the tool, and there's a scanner tool that you can scan the UPC code of the product you're going to list. And I put it into the system. And this is nothing like the example you gave where somebody's life was at risk. It was literally a CD of somebody singing. But the UPC code that brought up into the AI tool for eBay listed it as something it wasn't. And I just kind of bypassed it and didn't notice it because the AI gave a really great description of my item, but I didn't read the fine print of what it wrote. And so luckily for me, the person that wanted to buy the CD got back to me and said, "Hey, are you sure this is the right thing you listed? I see your photographs, but the description doesn't match the photograph." And sure enough, even though I trusted the AI because it picked up my UPC code of my item, it wasn't the right description. So no matter what, I would say if you are used to technology or not, it's incredibly important to read what the AI is sharing. No different than if you went into Google and typed something in, and you can't just trust that the very first answer you get is either the right answer, the most thorough answer, a valid answer. So that alongside continuous learning, I think is just essential.
Yeah, and you're so right. And I don't know if it's my accent, but very often when things are transcribed when I'm talking, it either inserts a rude word for someone's name, which can be terribly embarrassing. But the other day, what happened, I was talking to a colleague after we'd been on a call that was being transcribed, and we just kind of finished up, and she said she'd send the notes out for me. And anyway, then she messaged me and said, "You've got to listen to this." And at the end of it, I have a dog and I have a husband, and I must talk about them an awful lot because even though I hadn't mentioned it, they appeared in the transcript about how my dog was going to be used in a training session by my husband and it named him. And that's really scary when we didn't talk about that. And I was really freaked out because what else is being picked up and fed back into this system that we're not aware of?
Brilliant. One more thing, Jeanette. I think there's a bit of a poll we want to find out now exactly what are the concerns around AI as well. Like, I think, there are a few things that you shared, you both, and we'd love to hear from audience. There's a quick poll coming up. Just want to sort of hear from you, what are the areas that you're concerned about? And that would be very interesting to hear and learn. And then we can sort of adapt our conversation based on that. Okay, so hopefully we see the results soon. Here you go. Jeanette, you want to pick up on this?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that data privacy and security are up there at the top because I think it is key, isn't it? Because if you think about the time we invest in building rapport and trust with our clients, how awful if inadvertently, because of the technology we're using, that trust is broken. We all know how difficult it is to regain that, if at all that's possible in that situation. So no surprises there. And I'm delighted to see that people are thinking about these things as well, because I think that's also really important. Oriana's put everything on the poll concerns me. Absolutely spot on. Yeah.
Yeah. It is dangerous, but yeah, we have to figure out a way through. That's what's really important. These conversations are so important. You bring all these experts and your dialogues, and be part of these conversations and dialogue. And we love to basically sort of hear more about what concerns how we can help as a technology company ourselves. So yeah, Jeanette, sorry, carry on.
As we've already touched on, is that data being used for other platforms? Is there another agenda at play here in some of the technology that we're using? And who decides that? So, I think it's very important when you're selecting your provider to check out exactly what they're using that data for. And more importantly, are those third-party platforms GDPR compliant? Because if not, you could get into a huge amount of trouble. And I guess if I were to think a couple of years ahead, what concerns me is how a coach might run into legal or moral or ethical trouble simply because they've not done their due diligence on the organization. So I think I can see a way forward where coaches, instead of trying to do it all themselves, will go to organizations that have got that all sealed up in one package and they can pick it up off the shelf and everything's covered and they can go into using that confidently, knowing that they're not going to break any laws anywhere or inadvertently upset their relationship with their clients. So Denise, I don't know, you're nodding there, which is good. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
About 10 years ago, Jeanette, of course, you can tell by my accent that I'm not from the same place you are.
No.
And about 10 years ago, I remember having a discussion with the head of engineering at a company that I was working for, and GDPR compliance was sort of a new topic. And he said to me, hey, Denise, we need to run this project. Is this even going to be serious? And let's just see, do we really need to invest resources in this or not? Or is it kind of a passing fancy? Luckily for us, we took it seriously because not soon thereafter, it became really, really vital and crucial. So speaking as somebody who came from a technology company, I know there's some friends of mine that are on the call today as well that work for some global technology companies. GDPR is a very serious undertaking for companies like those. And so if you are a single shingle coach, as my friend from coaching.com calls it, then this is something you can't take lightly. So I love what you said, Jeanette, about if you aren't sure about your own process or your own programs for your clients, to please be linked up with someone like Delenta, who already has taken the due diligence and has invested their own time, energy, and resources to ensure that the technology or the software is compliant.
Yeah, it's really important. And I'm also thinking for not just for our clients' protection, but for us as coaches. And a large proportion of our membership of the Universal Coaching Alliance are neurodivergent. And that's really important that they haven't got another level of concern. They can go to a trusted company, a trusted partner like Delenta and get exactly what they need, which will ease them and help them stay in delivering work that they love, because it frees them up to do that and not be caught up with some of the admin and the background stuff to do.
No, just a quick one on my point of view as well. Like you mentioned, GDPR is important. Now, the next level that I see, I mean, we should really operate in is ISO level, like which is, especially in the UK, basically we talk about ISO 27001, which is the global standard for cybersecurity and data confidentiality and privacy. So, it takes like almost a year to get certified as an organization. And we invested in it 2 years ago. For the very reason, GDPR, like again, GDPR changed with the Brexit, UK GDPR, European GDPR, and then we basically built the ISO 27000 certification for even non-European organizations to showcase that their organization complies with these privacy laws, so they can win major contracts from corporates and governments, right? So just if you want to learn more about that, the data protection and GDPR, ISO certificate, ISO aspects of coaching business, please feel free to, reach out to us. We have a lot of information on that we captured, for the last 2-3 years. But we proactively certified ourselves with ISO 27001 2022, which is the latest cybersecurity cloud computing security standard, just to basically cover those points that Jeanette and Denise mentioned. Cool. So I will do the next one.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one, the AI bias. So can your AI distinguish between culturally nuanced responses and algorithmic assumptions? So I'm not even sure what some of that means, but all I know is that it's unlikely that certainly the technology we have available today is able to read those nuances in people, is able to understand the emotions behind the words. If everybody's got a kind of spectrum, I've known people who's, when they're excited, you can tell because they get big and they get bold and brash. And equally, I've worked with clients who are absolutely off the scale excited, and they have completely blank faces and they're barely opening their mouths and they're talking really softly. But for them, that's their area of excitement. It's about how we calibrate that. So I think it's really important. I'm not sure that a machine could do that. I think it could do some of the lower level skills stuff. I think it could definitely do that. For example, if there was a client who wanted to be better at presentation skills, I think asking some key questions of an AI avatar or model could actually help that. But if it comes to the emotions around that and about some of the bigger things and about relationships, I'm not sure it could do what we could do as humans. And it's a very human connection there. And then the final couple of things there are, should clients know if they're working with an AI-powered coaching assistant? What are we disclosing and what are we hiding? That comes back to that being open and honest and authentic, contracting with the client for how we're working with them, what tools are we using, in the same way that I might say to a client, sometimes I might step out of coaching because I see a training need, or there might be some mentoring that's needed, or, I might want to refer you to a counselor, for example. So I think in the same way, we need to be really clear about when we're contracting with our clients, what we're using. And I think more importantly, the purpose of it, what's the point in us doing that? I can see you're thinking there, Denise. What would you like to add?
I'm trying to untangle this thought in my mind, because when I'm speaking with a client, whether I'm consulting, whether I am coaching, or whether I am enabling, there are lots of resources that likely I used before I came to that engagement. And I'm thinking, for example, like if I was to create a leadership development program, I don't go to that program and say, hey, everyone, here's all the books on my bookshelf that I used in every page of every sentence and every citation that crafted this presentation. I think it is intended that the person or persons that are receiving the content, information, communication, or documentation understand that there's a lot of history that came from my brain or my experiences that delivered that to them. And so where I'm thinking is in terms of how much do you need to share with your client that doesn't instill a fear that may not even be there. And yet at the same time, if there are tools that specifically they would want to know, like, for example, I often use tools that transcribe my coaching sessions. It is crucial to tell the person we're recording this session. here's what I'm doing with the recording. Here's what the recording is if you want to look more into it, so that they can choose if they're okay with that. Now, I use it, and maybe we'll get to this later in the discussion, but I feel like that allows me to be more present, listening more intently. I have ADHD brain, so using a recorder helps me to help that person also summarize what we talked about, because we know that after even we are all here today, that within less than 1 week, we will only have remembered at the most 20% of what was discussed on this call.
Yeah.
So if we want to maximize the potential for success for the client, using these tools helps you to have threads or stickiness to what's being discussed that doesn't just get lost when the phone call hangs up or the engagement in person is concluded.
Yeah. And there's nothing worse, is there, than remembering I had an aha moment, but I can't actually remember what that was, what the content of that was. Yeah. And then the professional identity. So if AI starts doing coach-like work, where do we as coaches draw the line? And I think it comes back to that human connection. So use them where they work well, where they're in service of the client, and actually don't forget, ultimately, it's a person-to-person relationship. And I think that's really, really important.
You had mentioned, Jeanette, about emotions a few minutes ago. And I think that what's important there for us to understand is that these AI tools, including the bots that appear to be like people, they are still computers that are adding ones and zeros, and they cannot read or deliver empathy. Like, even if you've seen some of these tools, I don't know, there was a movie years ago with, I think, Joaquin Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken, and there was like he was in love with a robot or something, and it appeared as though this person was very human. So I think we have to remember that emotions are what make us human, and that the computers are just delivering data.
Yeah, yeah. And I think as well, the human brain kind of computes data very differently, doesn't it? So we build on experience. So we repeat something, but if there's a different result, we're adding that to kind of data bank, if you like. I'm not sure that the technology can do that yet. And I guess there's a danger that it overwrites with the newest experience, and it doesn't layer that in terms of the history that's going on in the same way that a human would, and we would recall what happened in the nuances in those interventions. So again, yeah, I think there's a long way to go with this. I think we're done on that slide, Sam.
Okay, hey, thank you very much. So I just want to sort of talk about a little bit around, I mean, how much familiar are you with, AI and people who are in the sort of audience, and, what extent that you use AI today in your business? Because it is also very, very much relevant question when it comes to Delenta, because what we want to do is we want to address those concerns when we design AI services for coaching in our organization, right? So, I don't know whether, Dana, we have any kind of poll that says, how much knowledge, what is your expertise in AI, sort of a poll, just to sort of understand the audience a little bit. I don't know whether, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Sorry,
if you have.
we don't have a post there, but probably on the chat, if you can just add it, that'll be great.
Yeah, if you can, like, if you're expert, or you're just a regular user, or even if you have less sort of expertise in AI, we love to know, because that would basically help as well as we do these webinars. Again, keep the chat going. I can see loads of questions and comments and great stuff, and we will pick up definitely at the end as well. So on that note, I want to quickly talk about what Delenta is doing in the sort of a coaching side of things, and also AI. Some current trends that we see in the market today is more and more coaches have become collaborative. Since the AI came to the picture, we see a lot of individuals, coaches now come together and working together under one sort of umbrella, or they collaborate with each other when it comes to customer development, market development activities. So we build a solution that more like a multi-coach friendly, so you can basically see the track data, etc. So, and you can work with your coaches under one umbrella. We have AI Note Taker. Currently, we've been beta testing. And if you're interested in what we do with AI, and if you want to hear more about, if you want to take part of one of these technologies that we are building, please feel free to reach out. Or maybe, Dana, you can share that quickly on the chat to share with, maybe they can hear from us when we do regular updates on our AI technologies. So that's another thing that we do. We see a lot of organizations looking for data insights. So you capture, like again, Jeanette and Denise said, there are tools available today in terms of data insights. What we do is we bring your client data, notes, tasks, goal settings, your resources into one place, so we can basically give you a lot more insights. So again, data belongs to you. We don't use that. We are again coaching technology company, and we are solely want to help you. So we want to use your data for your own benefit, and that's how we basically plan to design these solutions. And then at the end, we want to basically train your own coach bot to work with your coaching, with your customers through your coaching that you offer. So because we are in a better position to offer you that sort of service rather than you had to train any bot from anywhere. And you have to be very conscious about where your data going to reside, how they're being used. So in Delenta, what we do is we are a community-driven organization, and we want to make sure that data is belong to you, and we will not misuse that. And you can always question us. We have data protection policies and things like that. You can always ask from us and how we do it, and we can basically share those openly and transparently. So that those information may be very interesting for your clients as well. Like Jeanette and Denise said, they want to hear you. So they want to hear how you use your data. So if you ask us, we can share how we store the data, and then you can share those with your the corporate clients and Ps, RFIs that you get from sometimes in tendering as well. In fact, I want to mention that in a couple of weeks' time, we have a specific event coming up, I think LinkedIn Live, around how to win contracts, large contracts, using Delenta and what you do. And there are two people talking about that from our community about that as well. So if you're interested, please check our LinkedIn page. Yeah, so on that note, Denise, I think we want to hear your practical tips and thoughts around, because you've been in both ends, right? You were in a corporate and buying coaching and building an internal coaching community culture. Plus, you're also now doing advisory and also pitching for coaching as well. So I'd love to basically hear your thoughts on this. So over to you, Denise.
Wow, I'll just kick off something, and then Sam, let's see where the conversation goes. But I'll start by saying that one of the favorite coaching, I would say, programs, if you will, that I experienced in the last several years is around positive intelligence. So I'm going to spin this on the more positive side, because I think life is so much better if we're positive, smiling, and happy. In fact, on my podcast, What's on Your Bookshelf, and big shout out to Tom Schweizer. If you all don't know Tom, he's on this webinar today. He's one of the co-hosts with me of our show, and he's a big tech expert from Cisco, which is competitor to Zoom. But nonetheless, we have a podcast, and one of the entire series last year was on happiness. So I'm going to spend my first answer to you, Sam, on a more positive side, which is we've spent a lot of time here today so far talking about the risks and the scary things about AI. And if I'm looking at my notes from just our talk, we discussed things like data ownership and platform transparency. We talked about over-reliance of a coach only using AI, the loss of humanity and not having a personal touch. But there's some really positive opportunities to using tech. I lived most of my adult professional career working in tech as someone who had no knowledge of tech. In fact, I'll just tell a really fast, quick story before I tell you about the opportunities. When I was in 11th grade, and this will date me because it was in the 1900s, but I was in 11th grade, and my teacher said, Denise, you can take typing or you could take computers, but computers are probably going to be a fad. Everybody needs to know how to type, so you should probably take typing. So I did, and I can type really fast. And I never needed to take a computer class because my bachelor's degree was in music. And we didn't need computers for music back then. Now, if you're a producer or something like that, you need computers. But back then, we didn't need computers. And so I ended up landing myself probably a different episode, a different webinar series of how I went from the entertainment business to work in tech. But working in tech for 15 years, Sam, a few things that I love about using technology as a coach and someone leading coaching programs and consulting coaching organizations is this. One, technology and using AI is just smart. It's smart prep for you as a coach. So take out of the equation your actual live discussion with your client. It helps you save time. So this is the one thing I know about time. You ever heard of the saying, time is money? It isn't. Money, you can waste it, you can spend it, or you can invest it, but you can always get more of it. Time, you can waste it, you can spend it, or you can invest it, but you can never get more of it. And so if you can save time by using AI to summarize your client's history, surface insights, help you gather information that helps you for your next call, it's going to basically save you the time that you would normally have to be investing in doing that. That's number one. The second thing is scalability. So I'm a person that likes to journal, for example. So if you use AI to power some of your journaling or your note taking, then in between your sessions, when you're looking for information like, okay, we talked about this, these are the actions my person wants to take. Now, where do I need to prep myself for the next conversation? It will help extend that client's growth without making you have to spend a lot of extra time as the coach. Number three, it was mentioned earlier, I think Jeanette was talking about bias, like does tech have bias? But I think that yes, you can use tech to reveal unconscious language or tone biases, because here's the reality. We're humans and we are all programmed with unconscious bias as a human. So it's not even just the bias coming from tech, it's the bias coming from us as a coach. And so technology can help us as the coach to uncover our own biases that we may not even be aware that we have. And that's really useful for leadership and things like DEI coaching and things of that sort. And maybe number four, what I love about using tech as a coach is I'm a visual person. I mentioned before, right? Kind of a squirrel, ADHD brain. And so I like to visualize the impact that my clients are getting. I like to deliver a visual for those of my clients that are visually minded learners. And so what do I mean by that is that tech can help you have dashboards, analyses, using data to show the measurable progress. So it's not just about a feeling, but it's also about fact. And we talked about this, Sam, off mic, is that, some people are wired to just look at facts and process, and some people are wired to look at people and emotions and feelings. Well, we all have a little combo of both. And so using data to help you see the fact while you're also dealing with the emotional side helps, I think, justify the ROI that your clients and the organizations they represent, that they get, because they're paying you good money to try to get solutions to their obstacles or the opportunities that are in front of them.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's so right. I mean, we had today, this afternoon, I had a conversation with in fact, Jeanette, you actually introduced, Emma to the conversation.
Oh,
right?
glad you spoke. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a conversation, similar thing, like absolutely the data insights. I mean, she's, building an interesting ADHD coaching business, but that data insight is so critical and for a scalable company. So I'm glad that you mentioned, Denise, that's what we hear every sort of often from coaching companies. How can they provide more data insights to their customers and potential customers? Is there anything that you want to sort of talk about, Janice, in terms of, the ethics, how it can actually differentiate organization? Because especially when it comes to, there are lots of maybe a large organization come with the privacies, standards and all that. But in end of the day, people buy from people, right? And in their values and ethics and how you differentiate yourself with those is a very important topic as well to mention. And do you want to touch base on that, Denise?
Definitely. And for me, sorry, did you say Denise or me?
Go ahead, Jeanette.
Oh, sorry.
Anyone, yeah, both of you, absolutely. Please.
Sorry. So for me, the ethics begins with the intention. So it starts with the heart of the coach or the coaching business. You know, we want to do the best in the choices that we make for the people that we're serving. I think it's really important that we prioritize that. We're really clear. We act with authenticity and integrity. And when it comes to AI, it begins not with the technology, but with the questions we ask before we start using it. Let's be clear, it's going to give us what we want and what we need for our clients.
I love, Jeanette, that you said ethics begins with intention. So to me, what that says is that as a coach, that starts with how we set our expectations or the guardrails, if you will, from that very first session. And when we use AI, that has to include transparency. So letting the clients know, like you said in your part of the presentation, what tools are we using? How is their data stored? Who has access? And then if I'm thinking about somebody like Sam, yourself, with your tools and running a company that is a tech company that helps coaches, what are the guardrails? Like, what kind of encrypted data handling do you have? What kind of consent processes are there? What is the storage like? What do you do with this data? When is it discarded? Tools are efficient to help us, like we were talking, but tools don't necessarily mean that a tool is ethical. It's the people using the tools that have to be ethical. So we have to align each of these different use cases with things. And that's why ICF, as an example, which is International Coaching Federation, has a code of ethics that is geared towards ensuring that the engagements are ethical, and it's not just about the ethics of the technology, but the ethics of the human interaction.
Yeah. It underpins that, and that maintains that trust that we build with the client. And because, you know, in the main, coaching is not regulated, I think it's super important that we are seen to behave and act ethically when we're working with our clients and broadcast that.
I think one thing I want to add to that is that if you are a coach, whether you work for an organization or with an organization, because there's both, right? Internal coaches or external coaches that work for employees of companies, is that we need to also look at the privacy and the ethics of your conversation with your client, even if you don't use AI. I know that this webinar today is specific to AI, but here's the truth of it is no matter how you're engaging with your client, it's very important to think about what you're talking about with that person. You had mentioned the person that ended up losing their life, Jeanette. So when you are having a coaching engagement, I think it's no different than thinking about what is the role of an ombudsperson? What is the role of a lawyer? There is client privilege and privacy that's there. And I think it should be no different for a coach as well, especially if I'm speaking to you and you're a coach that works for a company and you coach the employees that are in your company. There are certain lines you don't cross. If, for example, that engagement is one-to-one, it doesn't mean that you then go tell the manager what you were talking about with their employee, unless it's agreed upon in the coach agreement before you begin those conversations around who is allowed to know what. I will tell you that a good majority of the people that I've coached in my past and present are people that are dissatisfied, burnt out, unhappy, demotivated. They're people going through transformation and change and stress, and maybe they're just looking for opportunities to find resilience and peace of mind. And so sometimes those conversations are because they just need someone that's unbiased, that doesn't have an agenda, that's there to listen.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. Thank you. And I mean, anyone in the audience that you have any kind of examples that you basically have used, ethics or, values, versus AI, how you have used to even, win contracts or, help your business, please do share. We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Yeah. So anyone want to go from the audience? Happy for you to unmute and go for it. If you have any thoughts on that, please, Dominic.
Hi, sorry. I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice is very low.
No, it sounds perfect.
So Denise and I worked for a software company, so there's a lot of analytics, a lot of data, AI. However, I think one of the most important points or selling points for individuals that I was coaching is the fact that it was completely confidential, that, there was no really, I was the person that was maintaining the data. HR was not maintaining the data. Nobody else was maintaining the data. So the confidentiality and trust is really, really important, because some individuals did not feel comfortable going to the ombudsman or towards the employee assistant program. They really wanted to speak to someone that was, number one, a person, and the confidentiality aspect. So that was the biggest selling point for coaches. And when I would speak to someone, I would say, okay, this is completely confidential. We're just having a conversation between you and I. And, of course, there's AI everywhere, but I try to remove the technology out of my coaching session. That is my preference. If the client wants a preference for something else, but if they say they want to record the session, great, go ahead and record it. But I am trying to keep my clients very much in the present moment. And I think people are just too connected to technology. So it's a moment to disconnect from technology. And when you're having a session with them, a lot of them will say, oh, thank you so much. I just needed to talk to someone. I just want someone to listen to me. So, how much AI and how much technology can we put in the coaching industry? I don't know. Like, I try to use as least technology as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Jeremy. And so I think we could quickly go to the questions. I think there are a few questions that basically mentioned in the chat. I don't know which one to pick up first, but there are a few more in the, sort of that you have shared in advance to this session as well. So please, who want to pick up the first one? Jeanette, Denise? I think we talk about how to keep things simple in the ever complicated industry. So, especially with AI, I think Dominic's introduction is, let's focus on your coaching and customer more than the tech. That's maybe the best answer possible. But feel free to pick up one of those questions, Denise and Jeanette, and please, let's go.
I like what you said, Sam, on the first one, is that don't let the tech override the craft of coaching. This is a very human, wonderful industry where we get to help people transform their passion, potential, and purpose in life. And so the tech is an enabler. It is a help. It's like if you have a toolbox and you have only a hammer in it and you really need a wrench. It's just a tool. It is one tool to help you to be able to be the person that's the master construction person.
Yeah. And I think in keeping it simple, so use one or two tools that really serve you well, and then you can focus on creating and keeping that connection with your client. I think that's the really important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think it's an interesting question about how we ensure we continue to add greater value than AI alternatives, right? I think, as a ex-corporate person myself, working in a large organization and somewhat had once NLP coaching also. So, it's somewhat worried that what you share, in front of, you have to build so much trust before you open up your, either personal or your challenges in professional challenges. Now, if you're asking for someone like chatbot, which basically have no idea where the data going to go, I will feel personally uncomfortable to disclose that, especially if it is offered from the company at itself. So want to know how you guys think about that, in terms of the building that trust with the customer, versus using AI to create that, provide your services. What do you guys think about that?
I would change the word than. I would put, how can we ensure we continue to add greater value with AI alternatives or with AI complements? Because this is not a discussion to say, is coaching going away? This is about how can we leverage technology to make the coaching engagement more efficient and effective. So I would say that, can coaches add greater value than AI? Well, if you're talking specifically, Sam, about, say, something like a coach bot, Well, there's some value in coach bots. Like, let's say you're an athlete. I know there was a question that came in advance about, how can you use AI for sports, for example? Well, let's say that you have an AI tool that's going to help you to measure your heart rate variability and biometrics. This is something that Fierce does as a company very well. That is a complementary tool to the coach engagement, or to the person that's using the technology with or without a coach. Because if you can use the tech to say, okay, if my heart rate is this when I'm feeling stressed, or if my endurance is this when I don't have enough sleep, you're using data to make good decisions about how to keep your holistic health in order.
Yeah, and that's a great example, Denise, of using it sensibly and in service of the client, rather than perhaps taking confidential information that can be used against them. I think it's working with all this stuff, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brilliant. So, I mean, the last question is around, what's the best strategy for integrating AI into your coaching? I mean, I think we talk about so many examples, and, Denise and Jeanette usually share about, like, how to simplify and how to use it ethically and, for the benefit of customers, etc. And, something that we perceive as a technology company, and we love human coaching. We've been telling, we want to supercharge human coaching, then go other way around. So we want to basically build tools that you think that valuable for you to scale your coaching services and businesses. So please, what I think is, I mean, if you can involve these conversations, and you can always share your insights, and you can, keep this dialogue going. Sometimes we might do another episode of this in the future to even share some more insights, about what we're finding from the industry, and also between speakers, like what they think is best. So involved with this dialogue, be part of our community, and follow our page, and take part in these events, and it will help us also to learn from you what is needed to facilitate those coaching conversation most effectively possible, rather than replacing human coaching, right? So that's not that we are here for. So on that note, I think we are almost over the hour, like in fact 2 minutes over. So I'm so thankful for you being here and spending your also with us. Jeanette and Denise, would you mind quickly sharing, like, how people can connect with you, and, is there any way that...
Yeah, I'll put my contact details in the chat box. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yep,
Yeah.
I put my LinkedIn in the chat, but also this QR code is the QR code to mine and Tom's podcast. So you can check that out. We have new episodes every Wednesday of What's on Your Bookshelf on really any platform you like to listen to shows. I think that link takes you to Apple Podcasts, but we're on Spotify, YouTube, Buzzsprout, etc.
Brilliant. There you go. Technology using for the benefits of consumer. That's brilliant. On that note, I mean, we want to sort of quickly show, what Delenta how you can help. Again, we have product that basically can help you scale your business. We have AI coaching masterclasses coming in Delenta community. There are other things basically will take place. We have community that we are building as well. So yeah, be part of this dialogue. And I think this is the time to collaborate with fellow humans, and especially SMEs, to build that ecosystem. Denise and I was just talking about that before. We were talking about, last night, and we were, so much thinking about how we can create that ecosystem. So we love for you to be part of that as well. On that note, thank you very much. And have a great evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you are. And I see you in the next event, and be well. Thank you.
Thank you
so much. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent event.